Good morning, students. Today I am discussing a poem titled Another Birth by Farrokh Saad. This is prescribed for final year optional English students, paper 9, QP code 11809. This poem is written by Farrokh Saad. I will give you her dates 1934 to 1967. She was an Iranian poet. She also was a film director. During her lifetime, she was known as a controversial writer. She was also modernist and an iconoclast. She rebelled against all the known institutions during her time, that is family and other society, etc. She wrote from the female point of view. Her strong feminine voice became the focus of negative attention and open disapproval during her lifetime. Her major works are Sin, and then The House is Black, and also the current poem Another Birth. Let us now read a few lines from this poem. My whole being is a dark chant which will carry you, perpetuating you to the dawn of eternal growths and blossoming in this chant. Now, the poetess talks about herself being a chant. Chant is like a verse or a line from poetry. She says she has become a verse herself, and this verse has the capacity, has the power to carry her lover to another world or heaven. In these lines, the poet equates herself to a dark verse. Verse is a spiritual term. It is like a chanting or a mantra which has the capacity to bring about salvation. The chant can carry her disciple or lover and perpetuate him or her. Perpetuate means to immortalize. Though Farrokh Saad is often compared to Shakespeare in Iran, we can also compare her to Kamala Das of Indian writing in English. For our convenience, I am comparing this poem to Sonnet 18 by Shakespeare. Let us see a few lines from Sonnet 18. The last three lines of Sonnet 18, you are all familiar with this poem. We have read it. It is, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? The last three lines of Sonnet 18 reads like this. When in eternal lines to time thou growest, so long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this and gives life to thee. In these lines, the poet immortalizes his friend by capturing him in his eternal verses. The poet says that his friend will be immortal, or he will live forever, because the lines will be read by people like us through centuries. So the poet's friend will live in those lines. He is in a way immortalizing his friend through these lines. The friend lives in the memory as long as men can breathe and eyes can see. So, in the same way, just like Shakespeare does in Sonnet 18, our poet Farrokh Saad wants to carry her lover to the dawn of eternal growths and blossoming. She, being a chant or a verse herself, wants to carry her friend or lover to another world or heaven or to eternity. to a place where growth and blossoms are forever, which is beyond all the earthly troubles. So she wants to carry her lover to another world because she has become a verse, and verse has this magical power of transportation. Let us continue to read the lines. She says, I sighed and you sighed. It refers to a physical and spiritual intimacy. So, when she talks about the act of breathing, it is like immortalizing, through the life. That is, breathing is an act of life. If we don't breathe, we don't live. It refers to a physical and spiritual intimacy. As part of immortalizing her partner, she says she will graft him to the tree, water, and fire. Now, these three, tree, water, and fire, are symbolizing nature. Nature is something which lives forever. So nature has the power to outlive man. So whatever lives today, any living form, whether animal or a human being, after death returns to nature. We have seen this in several poems, novels, etc. Let us go back to those lines again. I sighed, you sighed. In this chant, I grafted you to the tree, to the water, to the fire. Here, the poetess wants to graft her lover to a tree and to water and to the fire. Tree is a symbol of nature. It is connection between earth and heaven. Water stands for purity. It is also a source of life. Fire is energy. It is light. It has the power to destroy also. Now, I am reminded of the novel Alchemist. In this novel also, we have a similar setting. That is, it talks about dead people who become part of nature. So, let me tell you a little bit about the novel Alchemist, and I feel that we have to look at other works in order to understand the lines Farrokhzad tries to explain here. In the novel Alchemist, the lovers Santiago and Fatima, these are two characters from the novel. They share the same dream and same destiny. That is, they meet each other several years after their birth. That is, when they are about 18-19, they meet. They are from different parts of the world, but they have seen each other in their dreams. That is why I say that they share the same dream and the same destiny. Hence, Fatima tells Santiago that she is a part of him, and she also talks about men of the desert. Okay, so when these men go in search of their destiny, many a times they do not return, they don't come back. But the women of the desert are not very unhappy that their men are always going away from them. Even if they die in a distant part, they console themselves saying that their dead husbands have become a part of nature. The dead person is part of everything, a part of the clouds, a part of animals that hide in the ravines, and of water that comes from earth. Here in this poem, Another Birth by Farrokh Farrokhzad, as the title suggests, it is about death as well as rebirth. So here the poetess talks about what she will be after her death. In the poem, the union of lovers leads to death as well as rebirth. In their death, they unite with nature and become a part of tree, water, and fire. So, death leads to rebirth in another form. In Indian scriptures, also, we have this saying that death is certain, so is birth. So, birth is followed by death, and rebirth follows death. The old is replaced by new. That is, after death, another birth takes place. The lovers change themselves forever and become new beings. In the subsequent lines of the poem, the poetess starts searching for the meaning of life. She asks several questions: what is life? And answers them herself. Though there are no question marks, but we have to find out, or we have to feel that question is being asked, what is life? And several answers are given by the poetess. From the poem, let us read another line. It is, life is perhaps a long street through which a woman holding a basket passes every day. I have added a few pictures in this lesson for you, and these I have copied from the internet. I have given the link below. You can go to that site and get full details about all of this. In the picture, you can see there is a long street, and you can see part of a woman holding a basket and walking by the side of the road. So, according to the poet, life can be a long street through which a woman holding a basket passes every day of her life. Life is perhaps a rope with which a man hangs himself from a branch. So, in the picture, you can see a rope hanging from one of the branches of the tree. So, the poet feels life can also be just a rope which can finish off a man forever, a life forever. And in the next line, life is perhaps a child returning home from school. Here you have a child with a school bag, carrying a school bag, walking by the side of the road. So life can be that also. It can be homecoming of a child. Life is perhaps lighting up of a cigarette in the narcotic repose between two love makings. Narcotic refers to sleepiness after taking drugs. Narcotics means drugs, which leads to sleep as well as death. So it can be, life can be the smoking of a cigarette between two deaths. So love making is sometimes referred to as death in poetry. So life can be the smoking of a cigarette also, or the gaze or the absent gaze of a passerby who takes off his hat to another passerby with a meaningless smile and a good morning. So it can be, life can be just a greeting that is shared between two people. Most of the time they are strangers, or they are people who have seen each other. So life can be that sort of a greeting or a smile shared between two people on the road, two familiar or even strangers share this kind of greetings between them. When they meet each other, they say hi or good morning, have a nice day. So it can be that sort of a greeting between two people. Life is perhaps that enclosed moment when my gaze destroys itself in the pupil of your eyes, and it is in the feeling which I will put into the moon's impression and the night's perception. So, life is that gaze, that look you give to another person, the deep kind of glance that you use to look at a person. Life can be that also. After searching for the meaning of life, the poetess talks about her life, how it was before her death, how it was before her rebirth. So, in her previous life, if we can try to say in that way, she used to stay in a room as big as loneliness. She was in a way imprisoned in a big room, and her heart was also as big as that room. In a room as big as loneliness, my heart, which is as big as love. So she did not have the freedom to go outside. She had to stay in a room all by herself. She was very lonely, and she had all the feelings in her heart which she could not express. So she used to keep all the feelings to herself. She could not share it with anybody. She was restricted by the society. So, because she did not have the freedom to go outside or to express her feelings to anybody, she used to find ways and means to keep herself happy. So, in her room, in whichever way she could find, she used to make herself happy. So, in the next line we read, looks at the simple pretext of its happiness. Now, when we are imprisoned in a room, in today's in these days, we can very easily understand what she means. Now, during this lockdown time, there are people who stay in isolation, who are not allowed to go outside because they have the disease or they are suspects of the disease. When we are inside such a room, we don't have freedom to go outside or meet any of our friends and relatives. Farrosat was in the same situation. She was imprisoned in a room, and she did not have any chance of going outside. So, within the room, whatever happiness she could find, she has to look for it. That is why she would look at the flowers kept in a vase, and these flowers were slowly dying or withering away. So she would see beauty in the drying flowers. That was beautiful for her, because she did not have chance to go outside and look at the fresh flowers. And maybe through the window she could see a small plant or a sapling that her lover had planted in the garden. Add the sapling you planted in our garden, she says. Next line reads, and the song of canaries. Canaries are birds which have the freedom to fly wherever they want and sing. So, the poetess would listen to the song of the birds which sang from outside, which seemed to the size of a window. So, being inside the room, restricted by the society from going outside, she would look at the withering flowers kept in her room, or the plant growing outside in the garden, and also listen to the song of birds. The speaker is imprisoned in a room which is as big as her loneliness. Her love is also equally great. She talks about having a big heart. She looks for things which could bring her happiness, just like the fading flowers in a flower vase. She looks at the sapling which her lover had planted in the garden, the window through which she hears the canaries birds, is a gate separating internal and external existence. So, she has talked about life in the past before her death, what she used to be, the kind of loneliness, the kind of imprisonment she had. She is reminded of them. The speaker's ambition soars at this point. She rebels against the limitations that she may have been subjected to. So, as we mentioned earlier, she was a rebel. She would openly speak about all the restrictions that the society had imposed upon her. All the restrictions she had, she rebels against them. She questions the legitimacy of the social structures and traditions which prevent her from developing into a free individual. Especially in Iran, women did not have freedom to live their life as they wanted. They did not have freedom to write what they wanted, and that is why, because Farozad wrote about such things, she was considered to be a very controversial poet who wrote very openly about the inequality between male and female characters or people. Continuing from the poem, she says, this is my Lord, this is my Lord. That is, she says she has no freedom at all, and she has to carry the burden of life. Everybody treated her as if she was somebody from the who had made herself a lowly being. Nobody respected her for what she was. So she had to suffer all the authoritarian rules and regulations of the society. That is why she says, this is my share, this is what I have to suffer for being talking about very openly about the problems faced by a woman. My Lord is a sky which is taken away at the drop of a curtain. So, here in the picture you can see there is a beautiful scenery of the sky outside, but the poet cannot see it because her room has curtains for every window. She is not allowed to look or push the curtain to one side and look at the sky outside. So it is concealed from her. She is prevented from looking at the sky. My Lord going down a flight of disused stairs. So a woman is always forced to stay away from the world, away from the society. She is put down in the world. She is made, in case she rebels or protests against any of these things, she is made to stay in a underground prison. So she has to suffer for whatever she says or talks openly. My Lord is a sad promenade in the garden of memories. So she says, because she is forced to stay away from the rest of the society, all her life is just memory. She has to sit in a place and think about all the past things that has happened in her life. Promenade is walking. Whatever she can do now is only to go through whatever has happened in her life, and dying in the grief of a voice which tells me, I love your hands. So a woman, after she gets all the anger of the society against her, she has nothing left to her. She is not supported by anybody. So the only thing that is left for her is to die. Maybe a few people would have shared good things with her. Some people would have loved her and told her that she was important for them. So she can think only of those words which give her comfort and die thinking of those people who loved her. So somebody must have loved her beautiful hands. So she can only think about those things now. She can never meet those people or be with them because she is in the prison which the society has imposed upon her. So she says that her hands will grow in the garden. I will plant my hands in the garden. I will grow. I know, I know, I know. So, though the society has imposed restrictions on her, though she hasn't have the freedom, she doesn't have the freedom to go outside. Her spirit cannot be stopped. So she says she will grow, she will develop, she will have more enrichment. So she says, the swallow will lay eggs in the hollow of my ink stained hands. The egg of the bird, swallow is a bird. So the eggs of the bird which are in her hands, you can see the picture. The swallows will find a place to lay their eggs in her hands. So the egg also is a symbol for life or growth. So she says, though the society has restricted her, it has put restrictions for her, she will grow, her spirit will grow, and she will have another birth which can be free, which can be independent. By planting her hands in the garden, the poet means that only effort on her part facilitate her growth. Growth will allow new beginnings. So she has realized what she used to be earlier and what she will become in future. So her past life has been one of restrictions, has been one of dependence. So from now onwards, after realizing what she is, what talent or creativity she has, life can never be the same for her. It has to have a new beginning. So, in the next few lines we read, I shall wear a pair of twin cherries as earrings. In the picture you can see two small cherries worn as a earring by the person seen in the picture. I shall put dahlia petals on my fingernails. Dahlia is a flower with beautiful petals. So, from nature, the poetess is going to collect beautiful things and she is going to wear them on her ears and also on her fingernails. There is an alley where the boys who were in love with me still loiter with the same unkept hair, thin necks, and bony leg, and think of the innocent smiles of a little girl who was blown away by the wind one night. So, this is from the past. The poet is reminded of her past life where she used to be a very beautiful young girl, and many people, many young boys in those days used to love her for her beauty and innocence. So, those boys are still there in the street. Alley is a street. Those boys are still there in the street. Their appearance is given to you. They are very thin. They have very thin necks and bony legs. Their hair is very dirty, but they are still in love with this young girl who was very innocent. But she was suddenly taken away from that place, and they don't know where she is now. But the boys are still in love with her. They keep roaming in the streets looking for her. There is an alley which my heart has stolen from the streets of my childhood. So, that is a memory she has kept in some corner of her heart. She still, can go back to those times, think about those times. But life has changed her forever. She has grown up into a mature woman, and she has realized what her limitations were earlier, and she has been able to transgress those limitations. The poet talks about her transformation to a mature person from an innocent girl. This also marks the beginning of self recognition, acceptance, and independence. A line of time separates life and death. The self should unify with the Spirit of God. At this point, ego dies and the soul returns to the abode of the Maker. Now, once the poetess has understood herself, all of this poem has been about identification of oneself, or you can say searching for self. Okay, so self discovery has been done in this poem, and she has been able to identify what she has been all this time. There is self acceptance also. So she feels that she now has realized, there is self realization on her part, and now that she has realized what she is, the next step is to realize about God, and to become one with God, to go towards spirituality. So that is what she is talking about here. So the ego or the self dies here, and the superego, or about knowledge about God, is what she gets at this point. She wants to have that higher level of knowledge which is associated with God, what we call as nirvana. Okay, so she wants to get to that status. She wants to become one with God. Her old self is compared to a sad little fairy who dies and takes birth every day. So, in the last portion of this poem, there is mention of this sad little fairy. Fairy is an imaginary creature which is very beautiful and also has certain magical powers. Maybe you all have read in stories like the Cinderella, where the fairy comes to the help, assistance of this poor girl Cinderella, and entirely changes her appearance into a beautiful being. So, her past life, the poet's past life, is like that of a fairy, which is very beautiful and also plays a song. So the old self is compared to a sad little fairy, who dies and takes birth every day. So, this has been the poem for you. This poem is slightly difficult, but once you read it, it is going to be easy for you. It is about self realization, one's journey from past to present, from a state of dependence to independence, from imprisonment to liberty. So, this is the journey of a poet from a time in her past life to the present, where she is going to have a new life, new thoughts, and mature status. Thank you.